Melbourne Labels, installment number 3. Here we go. Hey everyone, welcome to this ongoing series on Melbourne Labels, where I show my dedication and appreciation for some amazing local labels. And if you're from this label I'm going to talk about today, Left Ear Records, I want you to know that I love what you're doing and thank you very much. And this is no more no less than a love letter to what you're accomplishing here. Left Ear Record was founded in 2013-14 by two guys, Chris Bonato and Anthony Walsh, specialized in far and wide reissues of forgotten gems, and yeah, they've released just about everything and anything that they find interesting. You couldn't say there was a specific sound direction in which Left Ear Record goes. They've released jazz, new wave, no wave, Latin music, a little bit of library music. There's so many genres that covered, psych folk. You'll see in the selection that I will spotlight here. And I own 7 releases from the 35, 40 something releases that they've put out, which I know is not a huge percentage, but you can't also buy everything that comes out. There's so many labels around here. I think the 7 records I'm going to show you here are just give you a broad representation of the sounds found on the wonderful Left Ear Record. I discovered the label in 2014 with this record here. This is the second album by Leong, that Rongeng sound, and you can see there we go, Left Ear Records, and it was originally released in 1977, pressed in very few copies. Obviously, it's a very sort of private press affair, and then reissued by Left Ear. This is a jazz funk, jazz fusion scorcher. This album, it's really, really funky in parts. The title track especially is incredibly funky. It's got these massive drum breaks, and I think it's a record that's got known a bit more over the years. And Leong Lau, Malaysian immigrant to Australia, and he formed a band in Sydney, and just we've got him playing acoustic guitar, tenor sax, flute, and then you've got the rest in bass and drums, etc. Sounds a bit like a sort of more funky version of Herbie Hancock, perhaps. As a reference point. His first record was also reissued by Left Ear Record, but I have that record on another label. It was reissued twice, and but all the same, recommend both of those. So that's an example of what you get on Left Ear Records. I think the second record I came across from Left Ear Record was this record here, and I have talked about this record on this channel a few times. I absolutely love this. This is Justine Bradley, just known as Justine here, and it's a double A-side 12-inch single, if you will. Justine Bradley was a singer from Sydney, and she made this one record, which is very hard to find in its original form. But what Left Ear has done is they've picked the 2 sort of standout songs from this album and released it as a kind of a double A-side, and it is just such a wonderful piece of music. It's kind of proto Sade. She immediately will remind you of Sade. The even the arrangements are super smooth. We're really firmly in a smooth soul, bit of jazz funk there, but jazz funk, jazz fusion, but loosely we're in sort of sophisti-pop, smooth soul. Except that it's before Sade, 1979, and features some great Sydney musicians on. Yeah, we've got Fender Rhodes, we've got Sam McNally on Fender Rhodes, and he's quite a name on the Australian jazz scene, and we have a whole lot of very funkified instruments, and I would highly recommend this release. I love this. All right, the next record I want to discuss here is this wonderful Japanese psych folk, experimental folk, avant folk, experimental rock kind of affair. Very difficult to describe. It straddles a few lines here. Twin Cosmos is the work of a pair of twins, fraternal twins, who you can see in the inner sleeve, in the insert here. We have Morihito Ito and what's his name? Yasuhito Ito. And those two compose a side each. So the first side is the work of Morihito, and he was then living in Japan and composed this kind of amazing suite of very psychedelic, kind of whimsical, very memorable sort of sequence of beautiful, psych folk inspired songs. And the B-side was composed by his twin brother, who at the time lived in America, and is much more experimental, much more in a sort of, I think he was very much into the sounds of John Cage, a little bit of Krat rock, he was very much into things that were a bit more abstract, and you can hear the difference between the two sides. And Left here decided to reissue this. This was issued originally in 1982. So Japanese psyche, experimental folk. I think if it's your thing, it's really, really cool, this record. Then, so we've gone from jazz funk, smooth soul, psych folk. Now we've got an ambient Krat rock kind of record. This is wonderful. This came out originally in 1987. It's called Picture Music. And this is basically an album that came out on cassette 1987 and is the result of a group's ambition to make basically a cluster Brian Eno kind of record, which they partially do. It's beautiful, ambient, very kind of almost new agey in parts record. It's very, very touching. There's these moments which are very quiet. You can hear the influence of Brian Eno on these guys. It's a wonderful lost treasure, and I'm so glad that Left Here re-released this, and I encourage all of you to take a listen. They're a collective, basically. They're all kind of like put in, but Rainer Guth, who died in 2016, was one of the principal composers, and this reissue is dedicated to him. So very much, if you like things like Popol Vuh, Brian Eno, Cluster, Harmonia, even to an extent Tangerine Dream, this would absolutely fit in that kind of a box. Then since we're talking about ambience, let's talk about this record. This record is absolutely amazing. Percussions pour la Danse, Jean-Pierre Boistel and Tony Kenneybrew. So this looks like a kind of a ballet sort of library music, ballet record, and you wouldn't be far off thinking that. This was originally released in 1986, and Jean-Pierre Boistel collaborated with Tony Kenneybrew to produce arguably a very, very good example of tribal ambient. It's not quite fourth world, it's not quite in there, but he came back from a trip to West Africa, and he was really into the sounds of the kalimba, the sanza, and other kind of ethnic instruments from Africa, and decided to include this in the mix of this composition. So it is a mix of electronic, computer-assisted programming, and a lot of other effects. Plus, you've got berimbau, you've got kalimbas. If you don't know, the kalimba is a thumb piano, basically. So is the sanza. You've got a very, very tribal ambient sound, not very far off things that are of the sort of fourth world ilk, but it's a bit more funky, a bit more danceable than a fourth world record would be. It's hardly danceable. It's very moody and spiritual. This is more, tribal ambient and kind of like funky and loose at the same time. It's a great record. Percussions pour la danse. Then another world entirely again, Dance of the Sphere. This is Rainbow Generator. This is a band from Australia, released 2 records. This one was released in 1978 on a label called Fish and Chips, and was re-released in 2023 by Left Ear Record. It was pressed to 300 copies, the original record. Sydney band featuring Robert Greaves and David Mao, and a loose kind of mix of, again, a bit of tribal ambience in a sort of Gone One Land sort of style, with some atmospheres which recall equally Klaus Schulze, a bit of gong, and the vocals on here, which are, I can't remember who sings on this, but there's some wonderful female vocals at the end. Kind of recall Dorothy Moscovitz from the United States of America. It's a very broad mix of, psychedelic and, abstract kind of progressive electronic music. Dance of the Spheres. It's a really, really lovely record, and from 1978. And I would highly recommend this record. And another example of the breadth and depth of Left Ear Record. Thank you, guys. We have, that's the last record that I will show you today. Litia Low, Life, Love, Dance. So Litia Low, a little known Chicago house band. Litia Low actually stands for life in the insane asylum, life on earth. That's life in the insane asylum equals life on earth. That's what the acronym stands for. This is a fabulous, funky Chicago Chicago house record, very soulful, with amazing kind of memorable, incredibly memorable songs on this. Very, very, very highly recommended. Recorded in 1993, original pressing almost impossible to find, re-released by Left Ear Record. And yes, I also want to mention a couple of comps that these guys have released, which are really tremendous for anyone who wants to discover basically Australian and New Zealand psychedelic underground, loosely, and they are the volume 1 and 2 of Antipodean Anomalies. Volume 1 came out in 2018, I think, and volume 2 in 2022-23. And I don't have those records physically, but I've listened to them heaps online, and I would highly recommend those for anyone who wants to discover that sort of scene of psyche, electronic, very rare underground. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy this video. Thank you.